Blog Talk Radio. Today is Monday, January 7th, 2019. Don't you like the sound of that, huh? And this is Foxology. I am Silver Ray Fox, your host. Happy New Year, Internet Radio peeps. I've been missing you. Yes, I have. Missing talking to you about all manner of stuff and things like I do, but sometimes you got to break away from some of your so-called norms to regroup and reboot, and I actually have some major shifts going on, things that I'm very excited about, but time-consuming mentally, and you all know how that goes. Something I've learned to not do is forsake my rest and restoration. Yes, indeed, we need it. God rested, so that tells you how important and valuable rest is. But you know what? Imagine if he had kept on working another week or so, doing stuff for us. How amazing would things be? I guess he obviously knew how much we could handle, though. I'm always reminded that we are just a little microscopic speck in this magnificent universe and hanging in the atmosphere by, I guess, what may appear to some to be a scientific formula of some kind. Well, you can believe whatever you may. It's a God thing. It's a God design. It's a divine design. It's all in divine order only. And you think not? I just dare any human brain out there to try to duplicate this marvelous work and try to call it heaven and earth in the universe. I believe you'd have a struggle trying to even come up with any part of that plan. Yes, I know I am right about that. Don't even try it. But anyway, you know what else I know to be true? That is how much we can struggle with much lesser plans and strategies and goals. Stuff and things we want to do and need to do in our own lives. You know, we want to do a lot of things, plan things, hope for things, get into things, get out of things. And a real good majority of us depend on knowing God's will to help us and direct us and guide us. And that's what we're talking about today on this first Master Your Mindset Monday of 2019, knowing God's will, the future, the facts, and your faith. My radio BFF superstar RRR, Cassandra McShepard, joined me today for what I know will be both a mind and spiritual elevation for all of us. Hey, Cassandra.
Silver, Happy New Year to you and your listeners.
Thank you. Same to you, sis. Same to you. You know, I let our last show kind of play out for a couple of months because I thought it was such an important one. I thought that conversation was so great and really trusted that it helped some people who may have been having some desperate issues during that time. So I'm always glad when we get to do this. I'm glad we're kicking off the year together. I love this topic, and I am going to start by asking you a question, and that is,
yes.
You know, we've been doing this for a while. We've been doing radio together for a very long time. But I want to know with this particular years, I want to know when you hear knowing God's will, the future, the facts, and your faith, and you know, keeping in mind what we do when we do Master Your Mindset shows, why do you think a topic like this might be something important to kick off the year?
Why do I think it is?
Yes.
Is that what you're asking? Well, because
yes.
I think that there is a lot of mystery. It was the movie The Jerk with Steve Martin, and one of the lines in the movie was his special purpose. He had to find his special purpose. And I think that I love this conversation because I've actually had that conversation with more than a few people, younger people usually, but not exclusively. people on a hunt or on a mission for their purpose / God's will for their life. And I think that it is so, I'm excited to let them know that they can really relax on that. I know for myself, when I first began to understand that there was not just something bigger than me, but that thing, that God, that spirit was so loving and so all around and so real and so understanding of any form of madness that I had, and so so big that we couldn't get it wrong, that I learned to relax. I used to be afraid when I was first saved. I was afraid of what God's will for me would be, because I'm an artist and I kind of like that, and I thought maybe He would have wanted me to be a secretary or a librarian or an accountant or something. And I'm excited.
That's really funny.
I didn't know. Well, I didn't know, because whatever His will be done, and we may as well put .com on the back of that, because that's it and that's all. But I didn't understand, and so I'm excited to have this conversation so we can demystify God's will. People look for that will, or what is this will, or what am I supposed to do? And I promise you can't miss it. You can't miss it, and you can't get it wrong.
That's true. That's true. You know what I want to say, too, before we continue? We have these conversations actually very unapologetically. I apologize sometimes if I think we may have gotten something wrong, but that's rare. We talk from our experience, our education, so many things that we just really do know, as Cassandra has coined so far, things we really do know so far. But there are some things that really get in the way, Cassandra, and I'd like to get your feedback on this. We know and understand that when we speak of God's spiritual things, we know that we're talking about a combination of common things that plus supernatural. But we're also talking about something that people get hung up in, and I call it a type of superstitious type of perspective. And I think it's something that has really become a toxic way of thinking, because we look for the wrong things to give us a message that we want to hear from God. And I think it's important for people to understand, like you just said, you can't miss the common plus the supernatural.
No, you can't.
But you can construct the superstitious, and you have to be very careful about that. When you think in terms of, okay, I was thinking about going on a trip and I just saw a bird fly across the sky, and that must be my answer. Well, no, that isn't your answer. And I know that might sound kind of silly, but that's how silly superstition is, and how it can confuse you about what it is you're wanting to hear or see or understand. And so I think that we have to make that clear when we're talking about the real deal. You and I don't have fluffy conversations about stuff. They're deep, they're real. We have a purposeful understanding and a purpose in what we do. So, what do you think when you hear that the supernatural versus the superstitious?
I listened to you talking about the real deal, and I listened to your unapologetic disclaimer. And I think to myself, I have grown. I'm old enough to have some real deal experiences, some real supernatural experiences. I have come through more than a few things, as have you, and as have most people. But instead of looking for a committee to sanction God's presence in the middle of my mess, God's presence at the back end of it, and God's presence as I know I am not just going through but coming through, I can speak on, I speak on, as you said, what I know so far from my own experiences, and they have, as you know personally, have been supernatural experiences. Mm-hmm. And so I would caution caution. I would encourage or invite people to get to know for yourself. There's used to be a saying, maybe they still say it in church, and I wasn't quite comfortable with it, but I must repeat it. Nobody can do me like Jesus. I thought that was like what Sub Girls were saying, but whatever. But when I say I invite, I encourage, I dare, whatever motivates you to check it out for yourself. God is cool like that. God is everything like that, and that journey, that search, quickly begins to diminish the superstition from the supernatural. And there is supernatural every day. I had a conversation just today with a young friend of mine who, and Pat, this is so interesting. I think about conversations that I'd had with her a couple of years ago. I wasn't doing nothing supernatural. I wasn't trying to be extra, but I was sharing some things with her because I've got her by 20 years. Just some things that she might think that she might want to do based on things I won't say got wrong, based on things that I went through so I could hold the light for somebody else. So I was holding the light for her. And I promise you, today she is in the exact same situation and so prepared for a real life-altering grown girl draw situation, and just in conversations that did not appear to be supernatural. I would share things with her that, based on my experiences, that has her primed for this. I'm really excited because not only does she have a wealth of friends who will then continue to grow from this experience, but she's raising girls. And that is, again, that's the supernatural. The sky didn't open, angels sang, I didn't hear them, but it doesn't always feel like bells going off or, this emergent situation. Everything is divine. Everything is supernatural.
Before we go on to this first part that we're talking about, I didn't tell you this, Cassandra, but I had thought this out that this may go into a part 2 and a part 3 for us because there's so much to be said, and I just really want to make sure. Yeah, I want us to be thorough with it when we talk about it. Scripturally, Jeremiah 29:11 tells us that there's a plan, and that it's not to harm us; it's to give us hope in the future. That was the word given to Jeremiah. Now, what we can gain from that's certainly a word that can cover all of us futuristically, knowing that God does care for us, love us. There's a plan, and that it's with hope. And hope meaning that there's just so much out there for us to be able to gain and to grasp. What I want to say is that you just talked about, we're going to go through life and we're going to do things, and I've done a lot of good things, but they weren't all categorically what I would call God things. And I don't mean that what I mean is that it wasn't necessarily what was for my life. I did some things and made some money, and it came, it went, and they were good, but I may have been off course of what I maybe should have been doing. And I think that I want to give that caution to a lot of people. And I just said this to someone recently. There are good things, there are God things. I'd rather be with the God things. God things seem to be more permanent in some kinds of ways, seem to be more refreshing, fulfilling, purposeful in the long run. I didn't understand that at some junctures, and so I think I lost some ground and some footing, if that's possible in the whole scheme of things. I always bloom where I'm planted, but some of it I could have, in my own opinion, kind of done a little bit differently or kept myself focused on some other things. But to remember that, as you go forward, you won't always have some of the clarity that you like, and I think that some people may feel that that's damaging or destructive to your future. I think the important thing to remember that when we know that God's plans are to prosper us and not to harm us and to give us future and hope, that we always, not sometimes, but always have an open door to keep moving forward. That's key. Because that when things go wrong or you think you're in the wrong place or things are just feeling all jacked up, you feel like, I messed up, I failed, this happened, that happened, this isn't working. It feels like that's the place to stop, give up, and just don't even try to follow a plan. But that's just not true. You have to remember, if you're one of those people that trust in what the Bible says, what God's Word says, then you know that the door is always open to the future. Door is not closed because you messed up. Door is not closed because you did a good thing instead of a God thing. It's always there. So that should be the motivator to pick you up and to keep going. I know there are a lot of people listening who feel like they got out of the will of God or they don't know the will of God because of certain circumstances, that they had hoped would be effective and work, but now they're in the place of trying to figure that out. Just remember, the door for God's plan does not close. Keep it
Never.
moving.
But Silver. Go on.
Go ahead.
You
go ahead.
I was going to say, but as I'm listening to you. Yes.
I'm listening to you now.
Go. As I'm listening to you, I'm getting the feeling of that we hold God hostage when we don't understand the nature. And again, I don't know how you can understand it without going to find out for yourself. I don't know that anybody can preach it to you. You can hear it. It can sound good, but it's when you go and when God opens up in your own spirit, in your own heart and body and soul and mind, and then you can really understand. Then you can really understand. You ain't gonna understand nothing. It's like when you really know everything, you don't know anything, but we hold God hostage, and we get disappointed when what we think should happen doesn't happen. But that might not have been the plan. And so then you say, what is the plan? I said, I know you can't miss it, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get you don't get emails, or that don't mean you're going to get text. You're going to get a text as to what it is. We'll put it like this. I have never gotten a text, and I know that I am God's girl. I know this. And I know you say some things that are God things or not. And I say if it's good, it's God. And I believe, there are certain psychoses and mental disconnects, and people would offer demonic spirits. I don't know about that. But I know that a baby knows. There's a certain connection that flows between the energy, the soul, the namaste of people. When you can be an eyeball connection, you can smile at somebody, you can hold a door, all of those things that we can do or you can do bigger things. But those things that we do so easily, you never know the impact that you have on somebody. You can guess when you think about the impacts that people have had on you. God's in all of that. God's in all of those things. So it's not always these huge monumental things. And it's not that if I didn't get the job, if I didn't get the man, if I didn't get the car, if I didn't get that God failed. No, God don't fail. But we get twisted when we look, especially when we put his loving us on top of a material, a tangible thing, or a specific outcome. We hold him hostage. And when we hold him hostage, we miss out on how beautiful it is to walk blind and free, trusting and having faith in God. But why would you do that if you don't know? And how can you know unless you go get it for yourself?
Yes. Well, I want to shift and talk about, Cassandra, how facts fit into this whole scheme of knowing God's will. Two stories come to mind that I want to share first. One of them, and I've mentioned this in a conversation or two with us before because it's so mind-blowing. I remember being with a group of women in a prayer session, and one young woman asked to have prayer for an interview she was having on Monday. The event was on Saturday. And so we were all excited for her, and we asked, of course, about what she was going to be doing, and she said a nurse. And so we asked 3 other questions and discovered that she had absolutely no background in nursing. She had no education in nursing. But she was going for this interview on faith and told us that God would supernaturally provide for her all of everything that she needed to understand going forward in that career. I stopped communicating and praying because I'm thinking to myself, no, that's not going to happen. That's superstitious faith. The other story is I was teaching Bible study Sunday school classes, and there was this young man that week after week talked about, I really want to know God's will. And with so much anxiety and so much, I don't know, discomfort in his spirit. So one Sunday after class, I took him aside. He had just gotten a degree in May or June, and this was sometime in the fall. So I said to him, what really is the problem? He said, well, I'm just trying to know God's will. I said, but how are you trying to know? Have you even looked for work? Have you applied for anything? He said, no, I'm just waiting on God. Okay. Well, facts say that you probably need to go to, Houston, ISD or some of the school districts around here and apply for a job. But he really genuinely meant what he said. I'm just waiting for some, supernatural,
and he's not the only one.
Large. No, he's not. That's why I'm telling you we're having this conversation, Cassandra. He isn't. There are many, many people of that mindset, and it's unfortunate because, the Bible tells us that wisdom is the principal thing. People think that faith is the principal thing. But if you look at other versions, it'll say wisdom is supreme. Well, obviously that's a truth. Truth, whether it's biblical or not, wisdom has to play a part, believing. I believe if you, in cases like this, you take the first step of wisdom, and that's what I was saying earlier. When you do that common sense thing, that supernatural comes in there, there's no telling what can happen. But those are a couple of stories that represent a million others that people are not entering in factual approaches to knowing what they should do to go forward, move forward, and make things happen. Accomplishment takes effort. Achieving something takes effort. And you know what else in regard to that scripture besides saying to wisdom is the principal thing? When you get the wisdom, get understanding as well. And that's very much, Cassandra, the premise of what we do with Master Your Mindset. It's not just some fluffy type of a way of dealing with life and some motivational type of thinking. It's deep, it's rich, and it's the kind of thing that once you do it, once you're on that page, once you're in that paradigm, boy, life changes for you. But we often don't want to think that hard. We don't want to think that thoroughly.
Silver, you know what? Let me interject. I'm still with the brother that's waiting on God, because you know me, person, and you know I so understand that. Oftentimes I'm like, God, I'll be playing video games. Call me when you're ready, and I ain't playing. I mean, I'm really playing video games. but also, and I go back to the nurse. And I would say that didn't get it. It's like she's going for a job interview butt naked. you got to be dressed. So at least put your clothes on. In other words, if you have a clue as to what you want to do, read a book. There are certain things that need to be in place, which is what you always talk about. And then it's not necessarily a wait on God. If you are ever readying yourself for the direction that you have been given, if you are ever readying yourself, you don't have to wait because you're just getting ready until. And I promise you, again, you and I know, the phone rings, the Facebook messages post out of the blue, the email comes in. Girl, I'm about to be in a play. It's something I always wanted to do. But I wasn't going to, go on audition because I don't want nobody telling me no. So it just came to me. Now, it took me 59 years. But they came, and I'm just saying, but I understand. I've lived long enough to know that everything that you go through, every day you are in the process of becoming. And so everything, you got to put on everything you got, whatever the interest is. And it's like, I'm not reading medical journals. I'm not interested. That won't be off. Nobody's going to do an email post or contact me on my web page asking me to perform surgery. That ain't going to happen. Well, it might happen, but I'm not going to, because that's not what I'm interested in. But I spend my time, not even laboring, but I do my time in my interest. And I know that being an artist is bona fide. It's sanctified. It's divine. Being whatever you are is sanctified and divine. And grow what God gave you. And it's only natural that continues to flourish. It's scientific. It is supernatural because people feel like it's a miracle when it happens, but it's really kind of it was written. It's the law. You can't lose.
Yes, that's for sure. That's for sure. Well, you know what, sis, we are about to run out of time, so you know that your faith is going to be our part 2, and it's going to be good. It's going to be real good because you and I really know that zone. We're going to put that off into part 2 of our Master Your Mindset series on knowing God's will. This is some good stuff, people. And when I was laughing earlier, I certainly am not laughing at people because of the distortion of thinking and faith. I understand. I've been in several dynamics myself that were jacked up. But what we do purpose here, again, is to bring light and understanding that has come to us the hard way. We had to really seek it for ourselves, and it's not something that somebody always told us. We've had to go in with God to really get the right understanding to even be able to talk about it to people in the way that we think that we can help. So please understand that we are here because we want to be on purpose with what we say to you. Cassandra, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I want to hear more about that. We'll have a little bit more time next time for people to hear about this new venture in your life. But in the meantime, you can check her out at www.CassandraMcShepard.com. And also she is live weekdays on Fox 6 in Milwaukee at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. doing her thing. It's a wonderful, wonderful show, Real Milwaukee. So check Cassandra out there. And be sure you keep your eyes peeled for part 2 of Knowing God's Will. It's coming up, and I'm looking forward to sharing more of that. I've got some great things, and I know Cassandra does too, that we want to continue to share and impart with you. So in the meantime, I'm going to look forward to talking to you again. Happy New Year. Be good. Be blessed. Be awesome.